Hello, and welcome to another history episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. All year long, we are looking at the Cortina d'Ampezzo 1956 Winter Olympics, as that is the historical games that you, the listeners, have chosen for us to cover and look back on. So every month, we will feature a new story from those games. I'm your host, Jill Jaracz, along with my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, buongiorno. How are you?
Buongiorno. Yes,
Come
I think that's
stai?
appropriate. I'm excited for the competition stories now.
Oh, how come?
No, because it's so interesting to see how competition is still the same in so many ways, even with all the differences in technology and differences in equipment and differences in what countries are on top. But competition is competition. And the
Yeah.
Olympics are the Olympics, and that's the core of it. So to get into that is gonna be fun.
Yes. So we're talking about the Cortina 1956 Alpine competition today. That consisted of 6 events, 3 for men, 3 for women. And comparatively, at Milano Cortina 2026, men and women each had 5 events in Alpine. So we've expanded since then. It's interesting how that's worked out. Lack of snow, big issue in 2026. Lack of snow, big issue in Cortina 1956.
Really?
Huge lack of snow. It was very warm. This really hampered the Alpine events. So sunny days made ski runs softer, and they had Italian troops in to truck snow from colder areas to make sure the slopes were doable for the skiers. It was also the debut of automatic starting gates in alpine skiing. So we had a visual signal and a buzzer going on with our automatic start gates. That the visual signal looked like a traffic light, and that triggered the official start time. And then there was sounded a buzzer. So you had like a half second to a second after the buzzer started to actually get onto the course. That was a big deal to improve the technology at the Olympics.
Make it more precise.
Yes. So competition kicked off with the giant slalom, which was just the second games for this event. Women's giant slalom took place on January 27th, with the men's competition 2 days later. And then both giant slalom competitions consisted of just one run, and today they are 2 runs. So a little bit harder to win in giant slalom. One run and you're done. So on the women's side, it was a cloudy day with hard snow. The surprise victory went to Rosa Ossi Reichert, a German who had gotten silver in slalom at Oslo 1952, but by 1956 she was recovering from a severe ankle injury. She wore bib number 1, laid down the best time of the day on bib number 1.
Very unusual.
Yes. She beat Austrian Josephine Putzi Frondel by 1.3 seconds, and then Thea Hochleiner from Austria came in third. Andrea Mead Lawrence, an American who was a double gold medalist at Oslo 1952, she missed the giant slalom podium by 1/10 of a second. She retired after Cortina 1956 as the first American to have gotten 2 Olympic gold medals in alpine skiing. The only other 2 Americans who have accomplished this feat, can you guess?
Are we saying women or men both?
Both. Only American.
With 2 gold medals. In the I don't know.
That would be Ted Ligety
Oh, Ted Liggity Hot Diggity.
and Michaela Schifrin,
Of course.
who now has 3 golds. She's the first American to ever have 3 golds in alpine skiing.
Nice.
The men's giant slalom was the only event not held at ski area Tofane. It took place on Monte Faloria, which overlooked Cortina, on a course that required the 95 skiers in the competition to traverse 71 gates compared to 2022. I didn't have the 26 numbers. 2022, there were 49 gates.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds a lot.
So Austrian Andrea Molterer, who wore bib number 6, was the early leader. And the crowd mobbed him when he was done, thinking that the cold was his. But Molterer said, "Wait and see. Tony Saylor is still coming."
Oh, boy.
And people had discounted Tony Saylor because Tony Saylor is another Austrian. He had broken his leg a few years earlier. Many skiers thought he'd never be able to race again. But Molterer, his teammate, friend, and rival, knew that Sailor had the right body type for skiing. And Molterer was right not to celebrate too early because Sailor, who was wearing bib number 18, was living up to his nickname. He was from Kitzbühel and he was called the Blitz from Kitz for a reason. And he wearing what looked like a normal winter cap on this slow run. And in the downhill, they seemed to wear padded helmets, but they were like leather helmets, so it's
Right.
still not a huge amount of protection. The 21-year-old sailor finished 6.2 seconds faster than Molterer.
That is a lifetime
Yes,
in skiing. 6 seconds.
yes. That's the most dominant win in Olympic alpine skiing history. Still the largest margin of victory in alpine, men or women.
Wow. Yeah, usually you see 6 seconds between, like, 1st and 50th,
Yeah.
those kinda times of the skiers who are just there to participate, not really compete at the highest level, but 6 seconds between 1st and 2nd, man, that
Yes.
is that is dominant.
And then getting bronze for the very first podium sweep in alpine was Austrian Walter Schuster, who finished 7.1 seconds behind Sailor. So
Unbelievable.
lot of firsts with this one. Next up, we have slalom. So on the women's side, it was going to be a really tough race. The weather was snowy. It was very cold, and the snow iced over. So the run was very fast. And in fact, 13 of the 48 skaters did not finish or were disqualified. And 23-year-old pharmacy student Renee Colliard from Switzerland, who took a break from school to train for like 4 months and managed to make her first national team ahead of the games. She was wearing bib number 1 in her first international race, nailed the course on both of her runs. Finished first, both runs. Nobody could pull off a faster time. She won by a 3-second margin. And Regina Schipp from Austria got the silver, and Yevgenia Sidorova, who had finished 40th in the giant slalom, she's from Soviet Union. She got the Soviet Union's first and only Olympic medal in alpine skiing.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting at this time because as international as the sport is, they probably don't know a heck of a lot about each other because it's
Right?
not like races are broadcast all around the world in different countries or you're getting film of other people or yeah, I just don't think that's how it was done. You trained as best you could in your little bubble and then you ended up coming to these international races and that's when you saw your competition. And that's
Yeah.
when you would discover people.
And how big was the circuit? How many people did the circuit? If you were American, did you just ski in America and maybe went to Europe every once in a while? How it worked, I'm not exactly sure. But that was the only Olympic race that Collier did. She was one and done, got her gold medal, was out, went back to school, and finished her pharmacy degree.
Good for her.
In the men's slalom, the mountain won again.
Oh, no.
32 of the 89 skiers disqualified or did not finish. Tony Saylor got to the race late. Legend has it he did not wake up on time. But that seemed to be not a problem because once again he cruised to victory, beating Japan's Chiharu Igaya by 4 seconds over the 2 rounds. And Stig Solander from Sweden, who was competing in his third and final Olympics, he got the bronze. Igaya's silver was Japan's first Winter Olympic medal, and it remains their only alpine skiing medal.
I was going to say, was this a time when Japan was more active in alpine? Because here you hear Japan in ski jump is kind of their big or some of the freestyle, but not alpine. So that was true back then too, that was unusual.
Yeah. Downhill was the last of our races, and the course was really rough at this point. So the army was covering it with snow and pine needles, which made for a tough, bumpy run. For Switzerland's Madeleine Berthaud, it was also happy birthday. And she won gold on her birthday with a 4.7-second margin over silver medalist teammate Frida Denzer. And that margin was 4 times larger than any other women's in Olympic downhill history.
If 4 seconds in a downhill again, a lifetime.
Yes. Lucy Wheeler of Canada came in 3rd. That was Canada's first Alpine Olympic medal, and she was also the first North American to win a medal in an Olympic downhill event. She later would be one of the Olympic flag bearers at Calgary 1988 in the opening ceremony.
Oh, good for her. Makes sense that she was historical in
Yes.
her own right.
Yes. And then on the men's side, Mountain and Mother Nature were winning again. It was a really tough, it sounded pretty bad and not dissimilar for what we had
Right,
and what
it's
we saw too.
one day it was snowing, the next day it was incredibly warm, and then the next day it would freeze over and it would be all bumpy, and yeah, they had a
Yes.
rough go of it both in the Olympics and in the Paralympics.
It was cloudy and misty in 1956 at the summit with hard snow. So, again, we had one of those where they were skiing into nothing. Remember that last day of,
Yes,
para-alpine where
where
we're like, "Where are the people?"
you had fog, and then they would disappear, and where did the skier go?
Yeah. So this sounded like it was similar to 1956. Of the 75 competitors who started the nearly 3.5-kilometer course, which is comparable to today, 28 did not finish, including giant slalom bronze medalist Walter Schuster and slalom silver medalist Chiaru Igaya. One of the ones who did not finish was American Marvin Melville, who got halfway down and hit a road. I don't know what that meant, but that's what he said. I hit a road, skis broke, bindings fell out, and that was it.
Wow.
And you're talking, and I believe the skis were wooden back then too. So we're totally different technology for skis. American Bud Warner also fell during the race. He got back up, and continued racing. And
On half of a wooden ski and one
right?
pole and
But he finished 11th, you know? It was just amazing to me because we see people wipe out today and they're done, usually
right,
because they
there's no
wipe out so
chance.
far, but I'm thinking that, the gates were far apart or just the combination of wood skis and wax and snow and lack of snow just meant, like, you fell down and didn't move, and you could just get back up and go. So, even Cortina 1956 star Tony Saylor had issues. His binding strap broke ahead of the race, so he skied on a replacement that an Italian trainer gave him. And his coach was so worried that he kept slapping Saylor on the shoulder and repeating, "Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous." Which
Which
of
is the only
course,
way to make somebody
yeah.
really nervous.
Well, made Saylor want to hit him. That's what I found out.
I'm gonna slap you in the face if you keep doing this.
Yeah. So, during the race, Saylor almost fell. He managed to stay upright, and he beat Swiss skier Raymond Fillet by 3.5 seconds, and André Molterer won the bronze and his second medal at the Games. So, it was a hat trick for Tony Saylor. He became the first athlete to win all 3 alpine skiing events, a feat that would not be repeated until 1968 when Jean-Claude Keely dominated the Grenoble Winter Olympics. And Saylor was the most successful athlete of Cortina in 1956, became a national hero in Austria. Surprisingly, he retired just a couple seasons later with 170 major wins, 3 Olympic golds, 7 world championship titles. It took until 2019 for that 7 world championships record to be broken. And that was by Marcel Hirscher, beat that record. And another claim to fame, Tony Saylor decided he wanted to get into showbiz. So he ended up going to like acting school. And one of the claim to fames that he racked up, along with being in several movies, he was a James Bond stunt double for George Lazenby in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So if you go back and watch that James Bond movie and watch the ski bits, that's Tony Saylor doing the skiing.
That is a fantastic little piece of trivia there.
Was also a well-known singer and actor in Austria. I asked my friend Sabrina, who you met,
Yes.
I said, random Austrian question, was Tony Saylor very popular and legendary in Austria? And she goes, "Yes."
So
So,
let me ask you, how do you spell sailor?
Sailer.
Okay. I'm just curious if people wanna look him up,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the spelling.
Yes. So he's got a ton of pop albums. I'll put in the show notes, I'll have a link to at least one tune that he did. He was also the race director for the legendary Hahnenkamm races in Kitzbühel and, was named Austria's Athlete of the Century in 1999.
So
In,
people adored him in
yes,
Austria.
yes.
He's
Oh
a
my gosh.
legend.
It's so big, and this is one of those names that we just don't know. We just don't remember. Obviously, if you're in Austria and also big in the ski world, you know who Tony Saylor is. But just the greatness this man is over the history of skiing is really, really interesting.
And
And
Hollywood.
yeah, and Hollywood.
Who knew?
So, sadly, Tony Saylor is no longer with us. He passed away in 2009 from cancer.
But he certainly lived a life, man. My
Oh my
goodness.
gosh. Yes. Yeah, it's just incredible how legendary and good looking,
Of
everything. He had the
course.
whole package, whole package. 2026 note, I have a couple 2026 tie-ins to this. So, Jakobina Jakobsdottir from Iceland wasn't a factor in the medals in 1956, but she was the first Icelandic woman to compete at a Winter Olympics. And this year, she was 93 years old and went to the women's giant slalom at Milano Cortina 2026. I know this was got me so bad. With her daughter and grandson. She brought her 1956 racing bib with her, as well as a commemorative medal. And then the family found a store in Cortina that was displaying the 1956 Icelandic flag from back then that maybe the store had just on hand. It was just part of the celebration. So they stopped in the store and talked to everybody. It was just really, really special. Um,
Because there were a whole lot of banners that we saw of Cortina celebrating host city 1956 and 2026. They were celebrating those connections, and lots of stores had displays of 1956 memorabilia or pictures or things from that era. So it was acknowledged and focused on in the town.
yeah, and a really cool thing when we were there to see that tie to history and that it just you felt how special those games were to Cortina as
Yes.
well, and so it's really nice that you listeners chose this games for us to do because it's been really it's already been fun to think back on that. Another fun family note, and I'm probably gonna butcher this name, Marina Gasenjika Daniel from Poland, who skied in her 4th Winter Olympics at Milano Cortina 2026. She's an alpine skier. She got an Olympic career best finish of 7th in the giant slalom. She was the 4th member of her family to compete at Cortina. At Cortina 1956, her great aunt, Maria Gashenkia Nika Daniel Zolkowska, raced in all 3 alpine events. Another great aunt, Helena, competed in cross country skiing, and her great uncle Andre competed in ski jump.
Oh, my goodness, they were busy.
But that's not all. Marina's great uncle Josef competed at Grenoble 1968 in Nordic combined, and her sister Agnieszka, also an alpine skier, competed in Vancouver 2010. I
They've
understand
been
from
busy.
they're from a small winter sports town, and she's like, sports is the only thing you have to do. So yeah.
Well, even still, that's quite a family tree there.
Yeah, exactly. So that also a very cool tie between Milano Cortina 26 and 1956. So this was a lot of fun to look at and to see how huge a deal back then and today the stars are for an Olympic Games. Sources for this: Reuters, KLSL News Radio 1027 FM, the Canadian Olympic Committee, CBC Sports, the International Federation of Skiing, Bud Greenspan's book Frozen in Time: The Greatest Moments at the Winter Olympics, Hahnenkamm.com, History.com, the International Olympic Committee, Canadian Olympic Committee, Olympedia, Olympics.com, Powder, and Der Spiegel, Snowbrains.com, and Time Magazine.
And a little town
And
in Poland.
yes, right? So that'll do it for this month. Next month, we will be looking at the bobsled competition.
Oh, I am so ready for this.
So I am so excited too because they're, again, legendary people involved with this, huge heroes from Italy. And so we will be digging into that. Make sure you tune in. Thank you so much for listening.
And until next time, keep the flame alive.